Let's look at how to divide decimals. So the rule for dividing decimals, again, is different from adding and multiplying. So what we do is, in division, we are going to focus on the second number, which is what we call the divisor. So the second number is what we call the divisor. And this is like asking us how many times 0.3 goes into 2.37. So with the decimal points in there, it can be very confusing. So what we're going to do is we are going to increase both numbers, like 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times, whatever is needed, until we can turn this divisor into a whole number. So for example, 0.3, if I want to turn that into a whole number, I just ignore the decimal point, which gives me 3. Well, 1.3, if I ignore the decimal point, that gives me 13. So now it's like asking us how many times 3 goes into something instead of how many times 0.3 goes into something. Again, it's much easier to answer question how many times 3 goes into this number and how many times 13 goes into a number. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to move the decimal points in both numbers. Again, in multiplication, we ignore the decimal points, but for division, we don't really ignore them, we move them. So this is what we do in both numbers, not only 0.3, but the focus is 0.3. So first we're going to look at 0.3. How many times do I have to move the decimal point in order to get a whole number 3? Apparently 1 time. So in the first number, which is called a dividend, we also move the same number of times. Say we moved the 1 time, the decimal point. So we also have to move this decimal point 1 time, which is gonna give us 27.3. And the reason we do that is because, again, because we changed the divisor. We increased our divisor like 100 times. It's like, 10 times multiplied by 10. So of course, if we also increase the first number 10 times, and that will keep the answer the same. And if both numbers are increased 10 times, so you get the same answer. Just for example, think of easy example is 6 divided by 2. We know it's 3. If we increase 6 to 60 and 2 to 20, you're still going to get 3. So the answer doesn't change, although both numbers are increased 10 times. Or you can increase both of them to 100 times, and the answer is still 3 because 2 goes into 6 3 times. Also, 20 goes into 60 3 times, and also 200 goes into 600 3 times, or 2,000 goes into 6,000 3 times. So the when we do that, the answer doesn't change. So that's why we are allowed to do this. We can increase both numbers 10 times. And now the question is changed to 23.7 divided by 3. Again, the reason we're doing this is because we want to get rid of decimal point in the divisor. And in dividend, it's okay to have a decimal point there. Okay, so let's do long division. So we're going to set up a long division, which is 23.7 divided by 3. So we are going to ask us 3 goes into 2 how many times? That's 0 times. 3 goes into 23 7 times. So we're going to write down 7. The answer of how many times always goes up above the line. So here you're going to put what we call quotient, which is number of times. And now 3 goes into 23 7 times, but what does 3 times 7 give us? So 3 times 7 gives us 21. And then we're going to do subtraction. 23 minus 21, that gives us a 2. And when we get here, and the next you can see there's a decimal point. And this decimal point, you can go ahead and move it up and put it above the line. And so that's where the decimal point will be in the answer. And again, you don't really need to bring it down. You only need to move it up. So now we're going to move down the next digit, which is 7. and we are going to treat it like whole numbers. How many times 3 goes into 27? And that's 9 times. We're gonna I will insert the number of times lining up with the 7 here. And 3 times 9 gives us 27. So after subtraction, we get remainder 0. So this tells us the answer is 7.9, because that 0 doesn't really do anything. This process is called long division, and it is kind of long. And to help you remember all the steps, and notice what we did here. First, we get the 7 here, which is, how did we get 7? It's like 23 divided by 3. Roughly, we get a 7. So first, we have to do division, which is 23 divided by 3, which roughly gives us 7. It's not the exact 7, but roughly 7. And then we're going to do multiplication, and we're going to take the 7 times 3, and that gives us 21. And after division, we're going to do subtraction, and we do 23 minus 21, that gives us 2. And next, if we still have digits following 23, we're going to bring down the next digit. So we brought down 7. Okay, if you have a decimal point, you will always move it up there. And so this is the process for long division. And to help you remember all these process, you could remember, try to memorize the first letter, D, M, S, B. You can think of it as does McDonald's sell burgers? So that will help you remember the 4 steps that we have to do. Does McDonald's sell burgers? Division, multiplication, subtraction, and bring down. Okay, so let's look at the second example using the long division process. So remember, if you have decimals, first you have to make sure you get rid of decimal point in the divisor. So notice that I have to move the decimal point to the right 1 time in order to get a whole number 13. So in the dividend, first number 2.47, I also need to move it to the same number of times, which gives me 24.7, because when you move the decimal point to the right, you increase the number 1 to 10, and this 1 becomes a 10, so it's like 10 times. So you also have to increase 2 to 20. Okay, so we are going to get 24.7 divided by 13. Now we're going to set up a long division process. The first number goes in the box, the second number 13 on the outside the box. So let's ask ourselves. So the process we're going to do is division, multiplication, subtraction, and bring down. So first division, which means how many times 13 goes into 2. Of course, it doesn't go into 2, so we're going to go ahead and look at 24. So how many times 13 goes into 24? So 24 divided by 13, it's roughly 1 time, because if we have 2 times, it's going to give 2 times 13 is going to give us 26, but we only have 24, so that's not going to work. So only 1 time here. And again, if you want, you can put a 0. If you don't want to put a 0 here, make sure you leave it blank here, because we're trying to determine how many times 13 goes into 24. And again, we already checked 13 does not go into 2, or you can say 13 goes into 2 0 times. So there is a 0 times there. We just didn't put it there. And if you keep making mistakes, it's better to put a 0 there to hold that place, so you won't forget. You won't think the answer. For example, if some students, if they don't put a 0 here, they think they put a 7 here. So they end up with a 79 point something, which is 79, which is incorrect. Okay, so let's make sure you put a 0 here. If you don't put a 0, make sure you leave it blank. All right, so we line up 1 with the 4. And next, so we did a division. 24 divided by 13 is roughly only 1 time, not 2 times. So next, we're going to do multiplication. The multiplication is going to be the answer we got, 1 time times 13. So 1 times 13, that gives us 13. And next we do subtraction. So we're going to do 24 minus 13. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And next we're going to bring down. So we did a subtraction, now we do bring down. So we bring down the next digit to 7. By the way, if you want to go ahead and just, when you see the decimal point, move it up and put it above the line. So now for the division part, we don't have to worry about the decimal point. So we're just trying to check how many times 13 goes into 117. So we're going to do division again. 117 divided by 13. So you can try 1 time, 2 times. 2 times of 13 is 26. 3 times 39. 4 times. And so you can do this on your scratch paper. So 1 time, of course, is 13. 2 times is going to be 26. And 3 times is going to be 39. Compared to 117, it's still way small. And so we're going to do maybe 4 times and 5 times. And let's check, just kind of roughly check what about, say, if you do 10 times, definitely too big, and we actually cannot do 10 times. If you do the maximum number of times, 9, let's see what happens. 3 times 9 is 7. So when you do 13 times 9, you got to do 3 times 9, 27. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So exactly 9 times. So we figured out, okay, 13 can go into 117 9 times. So let's put the answer up there. And then we did division, so that gives us 9. Next, we do multiplication. So the multiplication, we multiply this number with that. So 9 times 13, that gives us 117. And after that, we do subtraction, and we give us 0. So the answer for this question will be 1.9.